Hey everybody, this is D Hunter bringing you another action figure review. Today we're going to look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Superman. This one is from Superman the Animated Series, from Bruce Timm's expansive animated universe. I got this figure at Target. They had a whole bunch of the new McFarlane figures there. I think after a couple weeks these guys will not be hard to find at all. I'm really excited that McFarlane has the DC license. The figures are bigger than we expected. They're 7-inch scale. The previous Mattel Multiverse figures were running about 6.5 inches. But it does seem to be a continuation of the Multiverse line, at least of some way. So let's go and check out the packaging here. DC Multiverse Superman. This is from the animated series, a lot bigger than the DC Direct versions. Looks like it comes with a steel bar that's bent. A couple of alternate hands, fists, as well as gripping hands. The top here, 22 points of articulation, and you can see McFarlane Toys with the Spawn logo there. Not much going on the top. The side here, it says Superman, the Animated Series. Other side here simply just says Superman and the DC Multiverse. On the bottom, got a barcode in case anyone needs it. And on the back side here, you can see Superman in a flying pose from the animation, as well as a bunch of other figures upcoming. Here's Superman from Action Comics 1000. Batman from Batman the Animated Series, Batman from Detective Comics 1000, Batman the Man Who Laughs, and a Harley Quinn from the comics in her animated kind of costume. So I'm really excited to compare this guy with some of the previous Mattel Multiverse figures, see the height difference as well as the articulation differences. So with no further ado, let's open this guy up. And I got this figure with a huge haul of figures from Walmart at Target today. Not all the McFarlane figures are in hand, but hopefully they will be soon. And here is the new McFarlane DC Multiverse Superman figure next to an old Mattel DC Multiverse figure. The packaging is definitely different, but similar at the same time. The figure themselves look to be a little bit taller with the McFarlane figures, and that was kind of expected. But at the same time, there are some similarities in the package. As you can see, the DC Multiverse at the bottom, almost at the same place, and looks very similar, implying it's some sort of a continuation of that line. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all of his accessories laid out. He does come with 2 alternate hands, totaling 4 different hands, 2 fisted and 2 semi-open gripping hands. He comes with a steel bar that's been bent, as of course the Man of Steel can do. He comes with a collector's card and a display stand. But before we look at his accessories, let's talk about this figure for a second. So this is Superman from Superman the Animated Series. He's going to go really good with Batman the Animated Series version of Batman from McFarlane. This guy here is 7 inches tall, which actually appeals to me. I know a lot of people would prefer them to be 6 inches. But I have a lot of 7-inch figures, and frankly, Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse were 6.5 to 6.7 inches for the most part. So even if he was the Marvel Legends size, he'd be too small for your DC Universe Classics. I must say that I prefer this scale to the one that DC Collectibles gave us a couple years ago. Those guys were just so small, they didn't fit in with any of the other Batman figures that I had. So now let's check out the actual figure. So this guy here is based off Bruce Timm's animation. I must say his head looks pretty good. Got that square jaw, thick neck. He's got the traditional curl at top. Got a smile. I thought mine had a little paint scuff on his chin, but that's just a little dimple there, so it's supposed to be that way. His Superman chest logo, honestly, it looks great. His colors look great. The blue, the red, the yellow they chose all look fantastic. His cape here, one thing I don't really like is how it's sort of swaying in the wind. It is made of a soft material, can bend around with complete ease. Seems to be attached at the base here, as well as up here. He does have a ball joint here, as well as down here. He does have single jointed elbows, mildly annoying there. I don't know if it's because his arms are so big that it would break up the sculpt too much. You can see his belt, his trunks. He does have sculpted belt loops on top of there. Moving further down, he has double jointed knees, super thin legs. His boots, they're sculpted up at the top. The line here is also sculpted in, it's not just painted. He has those kind of annoying ball joints for his ankles. Look a little better here than on some of the other figures. He has toe articulation. They use this black pin here, which is a little bit annoying. So overall, this guy looks pretty cool and looks very accurate to Superman the Animated Series, much more so than the Batman figure, who's a hybrid between Batman the Animated Series and the new Batman Adventures. And then here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Next, let's take a look at his accessories. Let's go and start off by looking at the boring stuff. Here's his display stand. This thing is a perfect circle. It's got the DC logo at the bottom. It's got one peg here for the peg holes in their feet. And it's very thin. Next, I take a look at his collector's card. As you can see, one side here, simply Superman flying, and it mentions it's from Superman the Animated Series. On the other side gives a little bio and some statistics. I notice it says his height is 6'3". His weight, 235 pounds. Seems a little light. This guy looks pretty bulky. And it says the source is from Superman the Animated Series from 1996. Now let's take a look at his hands. Like I said before, he's got 2 fisted and 2 gripping hands. Here he is wearing his 2 fisted hands. These are the default hands that he came with in the package. And then here he is with his 2 semi-open gripping hands. These will probably be my default hands for this guy, as they can sort of double up as a fist. I think this guy would have definitely benefited from some flying hands. Next, let's look at his steel bar. This thing has been bent, warped out of shape, as a Man of Steel can do. This thing is all one color, silver. The sculpt is pretty decent. I like the little notches it has on the edges. This thing's really not a bad prop. Can be used as a piece of metal Superman's bending. Can also be some debris in a junkyard. Here he is holding this steel bar with one hand. It actually has a pretty cool area that's indented in there and allows his hand to fit in there just perfect and hold it pretty nicely. And if you prefer, I don't think it's supposed to be done this way, but he can hold it with 2 hands as well. Next, I'd like to see if he can utilize the flight stand, which came with the comic version of Superman from Action Comics number 1000. Another figure for this wave. And you know what? I'm going to say this thing works great for the Superman figure. It'd be nice if he had flying hands, and honestly, it feels like he should have come with a flight stand himself. This thing's able to clamp around his waist. The plastic cape does not interfere at all. And you know what? His head looks pretty far up, or it's halfway decent there. And then I wanted to take a look at a Superman accessory. This is some of his heat vision. This came with a Mattel basic heat vision Superman from Batman vs Superman. It also came with a Mattel Multiverse Dark Knight Returns Superman 2-pack with a black Superman and black Batman. And then here he is wearing this accessory. It does fit on his head pretty much perfectly. And I found almost all the 6 and 7 inch Supermans it works on. This thing looks pretty nice. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at his accessories, next let's check out the height of this figure. So from bottom to top, this guy's a little bit over 7 inches. I'd say about 7.2 inches tall, which will translate to about 18 centimeters. Next, let's check out this guy's articulation. So, of course, his head here, it can rotate from side to side. It can look up a pretty substantial amount, which is nice for a flying character. And then it can look down that far, which is pretty nice as well. His shoulders are on a ball joint, then go out a little bit more 90 degrees, up, down, around, all that fun stuff. He does have this bit of plastic material here between his shoulder and his chest area. I believe it's called a butterfly joint. It's going to allow his shoulders to go in and out, increase the range of motion quite a bit. Of course, his cape is made out of a plastic that's very bendable, and unlike the Batman, it's not draped over his shoulders, hindering the articulation. Below that, he does have a bicep cut. He's got single joint elbows. They can go in pretty much a full 90 degrees. Of course, his wrist here, it does have a ball between his forearm and his hand, and I wish the ball was flesh colored. I think that would have looked better. It can't rotate around, and it's hinged as well. And if you wanted to change the way it's hinged, there is the ability for this ball joint to move at the base as well as where the hand is. So the hand can rotate, and if you wanted to put it up, you could rotate the ball around and then allow it to be hinged in a different location. He does have 2 ball joints in his chest area. This one here can rotate around and then allows him to go forward and back a little bit as well. And then the one lower here, it doesn't go around quite as much, and it allows him to move in and out just a tiny bit. Put the 2 together, this guy can really kind of move around a pretty good amount. Go forward about that far, back about that far. His legs can rotate this far out, almost 90 degrees, not quite. Looks like there's a ball joint inside of there, and it looks like he's able to move independently of that ball joint. And then go forward about that far, back about that far. Does have double joint knees below that. They can go absolutely all the way back. Then his foot here, kind of similar to his wrists. There's a ball between the shin area and the foot. Of course, his foot can go up that far, back that far. He does have the toe articulation. They can rotate around. And if you want to make them rock, just like his wrist, this ball here can rotate at the top as well as the bottom. So you'd have to rotate his foot, rotate the ball around, hold into place, put his foot back, and then you'd be able to rock his foot from side to side. These are kind of like DC Collectibles, DC Essentials articulation. Frankly, they're a pain in the ass to get to do what you want it to do. But if you want to get into that pose, it could be done. Also, his feet are super small, making it pretty hard to stand this guy up. Next, let's check this guy out compared to some other action figures. Starting off by looking at him compared with the other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures that I've gotten so far. Then we'll check him out compared with some other Superman figures. And then we'll check him out compared with some other action figure lines from various companies to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise in case you want to mix him. Here he is next to the Batman the Animated Series Batman from McFarlane DC Multiverse. This figure here is sort of a hybrid between the Batman the Animated Series figure and the new Batman Adventures figure. He's sculpted like new Batman Adventures, but painted like Batman the Animated Series, which is kind of cool, but also kind of weird. So here we go. Batman is Superman from the animated Bruce Timm universe. World's Finest. Kind of like from the animated film World's Finest, which I believe started off as a 3-part episode. That's a great film if you guys have a chance to check it out. And here's Batman, Superman, and John Stewart Green Lantern, each one from Bruce Timm Animation. Batman is sort of a cross between Batman the Animated Series and New Batman Adventures. Superman is from Superman the Animated Series. And then John Stewart here is from Justice League Unlimited. Really curious to see how much more McFarlane will make of these animated type figures. There's no way they're going to make quite as big a character selection as DC Collectibles, but wouldn't that be something? Here he is next to the comic style McFarlane Superman based off the artwork from Action Comics number 1000. And here he is next to all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse figures that I've gotten so far. These are definitely not all of them from the first assortment. I'm still missing the Arrow, the Man Who Laughs, Batgirl, Nightwing, Armored Batman, and Armored Superman. And then here are all the figures of McFarlane I have so far, next to the McFarlane Bloodshot figure. This figure was also very recently released. He's not part of the DC Multiverse. In fact, he's not even from DC Comics. But he is from McFarlane Toys, and he sure does scale up good with these guys and use the same kind of articulation formula. Next, let's check this guy out compared with other Superman action figures. The first figure that I'd like to compare him to, but I actually don't have him loose, is the DC Direct or DC Collectibles Superman from Superman the Animated Series. Pretty much based off the exact same design as this McFarlane figure, only about an inch shorter. Can't really tell from the package here because you don't see where his feet are, but I'm sure you can see his overall body scale is a little bit smaller than this McFarlane figure. I only got this one unopened because I had the entire Batman the Animated Series, DC Direct, and DC Collectibles collection unopened, and I figured I'd get this one unopened as well. Didn't feel like I needed one open because my collection is predominantly Batman related. Here he is next to a couple of different Superman figures from NECA. In my opinion, NECA makes some of the best DC figures out there. The one on the far left is from Superman vs. Aliens from the comic. And the one on the far right is a Christopher Reeve Superman from the films. Here he is next to several different DC Direct and DC Collectibles Superman figures. Here he is next to a Mezco 1/12 cloth soft goods Superman figure. Here he is next to some Mattel Superman figures from DC Universe Classics, Multiverse, and Movie Masters. Here he is next to a Mafex Superman. Next, let's check him out compared to some of their action figure lines from various companies. Here he is with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you got 5 different action figure lines from McFarlane Toys, all 7 inches, and all scale up pretty well with each other. Here he is next to some DST or Diamond Select Toys. And here he is next to some NECA action figures. And then next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here he is next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And here he is next to some Mezco 1/12 cloth soft goods action figures. And here he is next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here he is next to some Mafex action figures. Then next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And then here he is next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And here he is next to some Jazzwares figures. So overall, I must say this is a pretty decent figure. I must say that his proportions are a little bit too stylized for my taste. Huge chest and shoulders, huge biceps and forearms, really small legs. His paint job is nice. Unlike the Batman, this guy is spot on from the source material. I almost would have rather had them made a figure kind of like their Action Comics Superman and just painted him in the Superman animated series style. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. This guy just looks really stylized to fit in with a lot of your other collection items. I am really curious what they're going to do as far as future animated figures go. I hope the line continues and we get to collect and finish some teams. If I were to rate this figure, I'd probably give him a 6 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, he's a pretty good figure. I just don't really like the stylized proportions. And if this guy was a Batman, I'd probably give him a 6.5 just because I'm biased and love Batman figures so much. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add it in the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Keep an eye out for the rest of my reviews on the other DC McFarlane Multiverse figures. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.